Well, it's that time of year again. The time of ghosts, ghouls, goblins, witches, and all sorts of scary things. October 31st is often referred to as All Hallows Eve, Samhain, or as it's more well known, Halloween. This is the night when kids dress in costumes and go trick-or-treating, and adults dress in costumes to get drunk. In addition, there are those of us who like to watch horror films to get us into the Halloween spirit. Many people like to get nostalgic over Hocus Pocus, stick to the classics like Halloween, or just go with whatever. While I generally enjoy watching horror films all year round, there are certain films that I save for Halloween. For Halloween this year, I figured I'd do something different and put together something special, so why not a list? So here's my 10 best horror films to watch on Halloween.
All those lucky kids with silver shamrock.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. While Halloween is the more popular film to watch, I personally think the third entry is the best Halloween film. By that, I don't mean it's the best film in the franchise, but it's the best film about Halloween. If you think about it, the original could take place at any time of the year, and it wouldn't change things. This, however, is a film set on Halloween that takes advantage of the holiday and explores its lore and mythology. Originally intended to be the start of a new anthology series, the film sadly failed when it was released. Over the years, it got a critical reevaluation, with many defending it, and has since gained a major cult following. With a story that combines witchcraft with technology, great cast, awesome score, and memorable set pieces, this film is fantastic. This is essential viewing for Halloween and gets my highest recommendation.
Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
Creepshow. George A. Romero is a name that has become synonymous with zombies thanks to his classic Dead series. Stephen King is a name that I think needs no real introduction given his massive body of work. So what happens when these two titans of terror come together to make a movie? You get Creepshow, a horror anthology made of 5 stories that pays homage to the EC comics of the 50s. With Romero directing and the stories being written by King, this movie is filled with so much creativity and imagination. While most anthologies usually have 1, maybe 2 good segments, amongst several bad ones, all 5 segments here really work. Even if there's one segment that you don't like as much as the others, you'll still enjoy nonetheless. Combining horror and dark comedy, Creepshow is, as the tagline reads, the most fun you'll ever have being scared.
Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
Trick or Treat. If Halloween 3 is the best movie about Halloween, then 2007's Trick or Treat is one of the best. Much like Creepshow, this is another horror anthology, but here, each of the segments is interconnected and flow together. Originally conceived from a short film called Season's Greetings, the film has had a somewhat troubled release history. The film was screened at various film festivals and conventions with the intent of it being released theatrically. Sadly, the film went direct to DVD, but it received tons of critical appraisal and soon became an instant cult hit. Just like Halloween 3, this film perfectly captures the spirit of the holiday and reminds us why we celebrate it. Each of the stories revolve around someone not appreciating the holiday and being tormented by the mysterious and childlike Sam. If you're a huge fan of the holiday, Trick or Treat is a must-watch.
Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
Beetlejuice. Tim Burton is a name that's been associated with the weird and the macabre, at least in his early days. While much of his work nowadays fluctuates in quality, his 80s and early 90s work was on point. One that especially stands out as a great watch for Halloween is his 1988 horror comedy, Beetlejuice. Featuring Michael Keaton as the titular ghost with the most, this film was a delightful mix of scares and fun. While not particularly scary, save for a few scenes, this film really captures the fun, dark spirit Halloween is known for. Not only is Keaton phenomenal, but you've also got Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, and Winona Ryder to root for. The only unfortunate thing now is that the film features Jeffrey Jones, but that shouldn't detract from its enjoyability. With a great style, iconic score, fun characters, and imaginative filmmaking, Beetlejuice makes the dark look fun.
In your afterlife,
Happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
Young Frankenstein.
That's Frankenstein.
In the 30s and 40s, Universal Studios were the kings of horror with their now iconic monster movies. Amongst them were classics like Dracula, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, The Mummy, Bride of Frankenstein, and The Invisible Man. Then in the 1970s, following the success of Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder decided to pay their respects. Of course, while Young Frankenstein is a comedy, the film also works as a tribute to the Universal monster movies. From the black and white cinematography and old school set design to the familiar archetypes and tropes, this film is spot on. While the jokes aren't as risque as those in Blazing Saddles, nearly all the jokes in this film land. You know it's especially funny when even the cast and crew couldn't stop laughing between takes. Even if you're not a fan of the Universal monsters, Young Frankenstein is a comedy anyone can enjoy.
But don't see it alone. Don't miss Young Frankenstein, personally directed by Mel Blazing Saddles Brooks, in black and white. No offense.
Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Night of the Living Dead. Speaking of George A. Romero, many of today's horror creators owe a great debt to this master of horror. While there had been zombie movies before, it was Night of the Living Dead that started the modern zombie genre. Made on a small budget with unknown actors, the film became an instant hit and is regarded as a classic. Much like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, this film has become a staple of the Halloween season. No matter what time of the year it is, watching this feels like it's late at night on Halloween. Even taking away its historical significance, Night of the Living Dead is still a fantastic film. For a 1968 film, it's much more graphic than most would think, and it has tons of disturbing imagery. If you consider yourself a fan of zombie movies or horror in general, Night of the Living Dead is essential.
Night. Of the Living Dead.
Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
The Monster Squad. Recently, Fred Dekker got some attention for co-writing The Predator alongside his former writing partner, Shane Black. For those who were somewhat disappointed by that film, I've got a film the two worked on that's much better. That film is The Monster Squad, an 80s youth film about kids going up against the Universal monsters. It's easy to compare this with The Goonies since it's an adventure film with children, but this one stands out. Even with its lead child actors and somewhat family-friendly tone, this film is definitely unlike any kids movie ever made. This was back when PG-13 meant something, so you've got scenes of kids cursing and being threatened by hideous monsters. It also reminds us how awesome and scary the Universal monsters can be and are all fantastic. Given its massive cult fan base, the Monster Squad should become a staple of everyone's Halloween season.
Wolfman's gone mad.
Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
The Rocky Horror Picture Show. Yeah, I know, a ton of other lists of Halloween movies are going to have this one included. I know this is the obvious choice, but there's a reason why this film is still celebrated 40 plus years later. Not only is this film a ton of fun, but it also works as a send-up of the B-movies of yesteryear. You've got a mad scientist, aliens, a man-made monster, a spooky mansion, and all-around weirdness mixed together. This film is very ridiculous and aware of itself, but it doesn't feel like it's forcing it down your throat. With it being a musical, many of the songs are insanely catchy and have become iconic in their own right. This practically defined the midnight movie, with showings going on even to this day, with tons of people attending. On a final note, while I do love this film, I think Shock Treatment deserves some attention.
Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Night of the Demons. And now for something that is much lesser known, but still should be widely remembered as a must-watch for Halloween. Night of the Demons feels like the ideal Halloween party, full of drinking, drugs, and sex, as well as demons. This film will make a great double feature with The Evil Dead, given its sense of fun and over-the-top gore. Not only do you get some fun kills and top-notch gore, but also some fun characters and a great story. Here we get a simple story of young people having a Halloween party at an abandoned house. As you do, one thing leads to another, and they start getting taken over by demonic forces and killing each other off. This is a film that, while scary, still has a sense of humor and doesn't take itself seriously. If you can get some friends and some drinks, Night of the Demons is great fun.
Where you going? The party's just begun.
Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Return of the Living Dead. Ordinarily, I wouldn't add two zombie movies here, but given it's Return of the Living Dead, I just had to. While not necessarily a sequel to Romero's Night, it does act as a sort of spin-off to that film. However, this one not only plays with zombie movie roles, but it's also more of a comedy. Much like Night of the Demons, this also has a lot of the elements that make 80s horror great. You've got fun and likable characters, amazing effects work, tons of gore and nudity, a good story, and some great atmosphere. While the movie has its fun moments, it can also be pretty heartbreaking, especially given how the movie ends. There are some genuinely sad moments throughout, between the fate of our two leads and how worse things get. Much like with Night, Return of the Living Dead is essential viewing for zombie and horror fans.
It worked in the movie! Well, it ain't working now. Read the movie line!
It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert. It's not a bad question, Bert.
And there you have my list of what I consider to be the 10 best horror films to watch on Halloween. Let me know what some of your favorites are in the comments below. And until next time, thank you for watching. Check out some of my other videos, and I will see you next time. Take care.
And happy Halloween.